My initial goal was, how fast can I get to 10 million? I felt like if I got to 10 million, if Allstate decided to shut down homeowners insurance and auto insurance, let's say for a year, I felt like, okay, I could weather the storm. I used to teach agents too, and I think the number's probably a little higher now. But I used to tell them, like, you've got to get $4 million if you're scratch.
Got questions, we bring the facts. From proven pros who walk the tracks. Business life, no smoke, just flames. Ask the experts, David Williams brings the game.
Good morning, everybody in the Insurance Syndicate Group and insurance agencies abroad. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts, where we bring some of the top names and the top experts in the insurance industry to you every week. Same place, same time, 10:30 Eastern time on Thursdays. And we're thrilled you're here. And you guys picked an incredible session to join. So today, we're honored to be joined by John Pavle, one of CWC's top all-star mentors and a true powerhouse when it comes to building successful agencies. John is going to tell us a lot more about his story, but to give everybody here a preview, he started his scratch agency back in 2009, I believe, with nothing but grit and determination and a vision. And today he operates 6 thriving agencies with a combined $33 million plus in earned premium. And even more impressive, I think I read somewhere that your team might be on track to write as much as $10 million in new business in a single year alone, which is just massive. And they're definitely fueled, when I look at kind of your DNA, by smart strategic use of internet leads and sales strategy, which we're going to dive into today. And John's a master when it comes to internet lead generation, setting up systems, helping agencies scale faster and smarter. And he's not just talking about theory. I think when it comes to today, we're going to be talking about real world application and how he's installed some of these winning strategies in many of his own agencies as well as other agencies. So you guys are going to get some very powerful insights today. And this is definitely the right place and the right time to be here learning with us. So you guys buckle up. This is going to be an action-packed session. And please help me welcome John. Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
Yeah, very thrilled to have you and really appreciate, your time, and want to just dive right into this. And I'd love if you could take us back to the memory banks and just talking a little bit about before insurance. Always like to get to know, where did you grow up? What was sort of your upbringing? What were you doing before the insurance industry?
Grew up in Houston, Texas for the most part. Born in Detroit, Michigan. Lived there till junior high, and then basically lived all my life in Texas, in Houston. Came from a very meager household in terms of like income. We always had just one car. Struggled financially quite a bit. My dad was a business owner, but it was just him basically. And anyways, went into the restaurant business and had a lot of success with it. Pappas Restaurants here in Texas, a lot of people know, and they're in other states now, but was the youngest GM in the history of the company. I was 26 years old and running a restaurant with like 200 something employees. Then got transferred to Dallas, and I was about 30 something, I can't remember, 32, 33 years old, maybe actually older than that, like 34, 35. Well, anyways, I'm in the kitchen, and knock on wood, I played sports growing up, never had a broken bone or anything. Well, my heart starts racing, and I go into the emergency room, and they are basically saying, like, they immediately take me back to a room. If you want to get into the emergency room real fast, tell them that your heart's racing. They don't make you wait, by the way.
Good to know.
Yes, they don't make you wait. And my doctor basically said, like, you have to lower your stress, or you're going to be dead by the time you're 40. Like,
Wow.
you're not going to make it. And so I had to find a new career. Thankfully, a good friend of mine, and he's still in the mortgage business, told me about someone that was in the insurance business. She was actually a farmer's agent, and said, man, John, you'd be so good at this. And I went and I checked out everyone's value prop at the time. I checked out Farmers, State Farm, Allstate, even the independent route, and decided at that time that Allstate was a good opportunity for me. but went in knowing, I mean, nothing about insurance. I mean, couldn't even tell you. I didn't realize until later that I had Allstate insurance. I mean, I knew nothing about it. I just knew it was a great opportunity as a small business owner.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. And what, like, was it somebody that, like, when you came into the business, was there to be your sounding board and your guide, or were you
Yes.
pretty much left on
Yeah.
your own?
So back, so I actually was an agent for a couple of years in like '05 to '07, and then I took a break from it. I went and worked for another insurance company in a management position thing. But back then, when you were a new agent, you had what was called a mentor agent, and you went and worked in their office for 2 months.
Hmm.
And I can tell you that time was invaluable. A guy named Charlie Money, best name, phenomenal agent,
Strong name.
great guy, and taught me so much. And like, I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't know. The first week I was open, uh, I had to get put on, I forgot what they called it, but it was like this box, okay? It was like a temporary internet system. It would literally take to go from one screen to another. Once you hit enter, it would take like 5 to 7 minutes for it to
Oof.
transfer over to a screen. And I remember my first day going, how do I write business? Like I'm going to go broke. I'm going to put my family, in bankruptcy.
Wow.
And so he helped me through that. And no, I'm very grateful for him. And so, uh, but then I left for a little bit because at the time, Allstate wouldn't let you, no one, you couldn't have more than one agency. And I was sitting there and I had a scratch agency. I had two employees and myself, and quite honestly, I was just bored out of my skull. you know
Hmm.
I was just so bored. And so when I came back, I knew there was opportunities to expand and to scale this. And so over the years, like you said, we opened 6 agencies. My book now is at about 47 million earned
Oh,
premium,
wow.
and I've never bought anything. It's all been scratch. And my wife, she had an agency, and we grew it really fast to about, I think it was 8 9 million, and then we sold it. And so she's not in the business anymore, doing other things. But no, I'm just blessed to be in the business. And you know, um, I think we should be thankful the business we're in, because if you look at COVID and what happened and how many people's lives were affected in a negative way, and especially business wise. And we're so blessed that, I know I speak for a lot of insurance people. We didn't skip a beat, we really didn't, and if you can do that through COVID, then you can persevere through anything.
100%. And having some seasons, some time under your belt, being able to kind of weather that storm, I'm sure that you built some muscle as a scratch agent to know what it feels like to have your back up against a wall. And
Yep.
I'm kind of curious for you what that first, even before COVID, when you were just starting out,
Yeah.
how long do you think you were in that gauntlet, that pressure chamber of like make it or break it, 1 month at a time? And then what kind of happened for you when things started to shift and grow to where you went like, holy moly, this could be something, I got something big here. Like, was that
Yeah.
take you 3 months to realize? Was it intentional from day one? Did you just go like, we'll see how this goes, and you're a year into it and you're like, wow, I think I can scale? Like, I'm curious the path that you took, because some agents don't take that path, right? 47 million, 50
Yeah.
million, that's a choice. That
Yeah.
doesn't happen to you by
Yeah.
happenstance. So like, you
Yeah.
just talk through that shift of like, okay, I'm just going to figure this out, to like,
Yeah.
I actually think we could be titans in this industry.
Yeah. What I saw is to make it as simple as possible. The more you put in, the more you get out. And so when I started in '09, um, I had an amount of money that I needed to make each month to pay all my bills, to take my kids to the movie if we wanted to, things like that. Okay. And so, to this day, I kind of look at how profitable the business is. And I know this is like a really old person way of looking at it, but I used to be, we as all state agents, we get paid once a month. Okay. And so I would look at the bank account, and let's say that, back in the day, let's say the bank account had $7,000 in it. Okay. And the following month, when I got paid, I looked at the ledger, the account balance right before I got paid. And if it was at $8,000, then that's cool. We were profitable by $1,000. Okay.
Hmm.
And so I basically came up with a number that I felt comfortable with. And I honestly, I don't remember, but let's just say it was $10,000 that I wanted in there as a base. Okay. So what
Mhm.
happened was I started realizing, like, okay, so I made, my base was 10,000, right? So the following month, that ledger, when I got paid, if it was at 13,000, I would take that 3,000 over and buy even more leads. So let's say I bought $3,000 worth of leads that last month. Now I'm going to buy 6,000, right? And then what I saw was the following month, instead of it being three over, now it's five over. Okay, cool. I'm going to take that extra five and I keep investing it back, investing it back, investing it back. Because the way I look at it is we're building in a giant annuity. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want as big an annuity as possible. And my initial goal was how fast can I get to 10 million? Because I kind of figured 10 million was a good, when you say like comfortable position, I felt like if I got to 10 million, if Allstate decided to shut down homeowners insurance and auto insurance, let's say for a year, I felt like, okay, I could weather the storm with a
Mhm.
$10 million book, you know? And, and I used to teach agents too, and I think the number is probably a little higher now, but I used to tell them, like, you've got to get to like $4 million, you
Mhm.
know, if you're scratch, you've got to get to $4 million because the way our contracts, the commissions start like this and then they go down, 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 right? And then you're relying on your renewals. And so I figured out I've got to build my renewals. I've got to build my annuity. So when the new business income is like this and it starts going down, and here's your renewals, you know what I mean? It evens out to where you're still making the same amount of money. And so that's how I built it, is into where all of a sudden I went from spending, let's say, 3,000 a month on leads to spending 20,000 in probably a little over a year. You know what I mean? I mean, and the thing was, I was seeing the returns though, you know?
Mhm.
And the way I see it, especially in our business, like when you start breaking down the money and income that we can make, there's no product out there, okay, in the stock market that can make the returns that, if you do it the right way, the returns that we get in our business.
Mhm.
You could say, well, why don't you take 5,000 of that and put it in an index fund? And I'm like, okay, great, but I can make so much more. You know what I mean? When you start,
100%.
the renewal income is the golden child for us.
See, and this is like, I love that you're talking about this because this is the missing link, right? When you talk to an agent who's been stagnant for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, this is the piece of the puzzle that they're missing. And
Mhm.
it's like so many people end up in this default mode of like, oh, I made an extra 3,000, so we're going on vacation. I made an extra 3,000,
Right,
so we're getting a bigger house. And then they
right.
just stay stuck in that, that position, thinking that they're making their life more comfortable, but in the long run, they're actually going backwards. So I love just
Yeah,
that. And you looked at it and said, look, like I'm going to be good here. We're not going to increase our lifestyle for now.
yeah,
And that's my baseline. So I'm sure
yeah,
that relieves a lot of the stress too, to be like, we're covered. I don't have to lay awake at night wondering if we'll be in our house next month.
right.
But now I'm reinvesting. And what you said is something Dave has talked about a lot as well, is that you look at it as one of the best investments and the best places you can put your money,
Yeah,
far better return than any S&P or index or anything like that.
yeah,
So I love that. And when you talk about getting into the lead game like early before it was cool,
yeah,
you
yeah.
still a lot of skeptics out there.
Oh my
What did you
gosh.
have to do with your team to structure your team to be able to field that? Because great leads, but you don't have the right people to convert them. Like, what was your balancing act? Because I'm sure when I hear 20,000 a month on leads, I'm like, John's not taking all those phone calls. There's obviously a team you
No.
had to build to field that. So what was
Yeah.
that process?
Well, I'll tell you what happened with me is in '09, I had a lot of connections. I was in the restaurant business, and I did my first, month and a half, or I take that back, my first time around. I'm sorry, I take that back. When I didn't know what I was doing and everything. And I'll never forget, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so and this is back in '05, okay, where if an agency wrote like 50,000 a month, you were like one of the top in the state. You know what I mean? Like you were
Mm.
just crushing it, you know? And I'll never forget my first month, I wrote 47,000. I had agents calling me. They're like, "You're number one." And I'm like, "Number one at what?" And they're like, in the area." And I'm like, "I am." I had no idea, right? So, anyways, everything's going great. Well, then all of a sudden, that pipeline that they used to call it like a list 100, I think it was called, that you had to fill out, it was gone. And I sat there, and again, I'm a scratch agent, right? And I'm just sitting there in the office, and like the phone's not going to ring, right? There's no calls coming in. Okay. I've only been open like a month and a half. And I was like, what in the heck am I going to do? And we were taught old school, yellow pages and billboards, things like that. And it was all like you having to wait, or mailers, or you having to wait for somebody to call in. Okay. You can ask my wife, I'm mega ADD. Okay. I don't, I couldn't, the stress of waiting for people to call in
Hmm.
would have drove me nuts. Okay. So at that time I started looking at, well, maybe, people are buying cars now over the internet,
Hmm.
and they're starting to do a lot of commerce over the internet. And what you said earlier, it makes me laugh because I had all the managers going, "Oh my gosh, do not do this. You're going to have 40% retention. It's going to be a disaster." And I was like, man, I really want to try it. And to tell you how old school I am, um, the first internet leads I got, literally, okay, they were called internet leads, okay, but you're going to love this, especially the young people. You might even have ever had a fax before. They came through the fax machine,
Oh,
okay? The
wow.
leads came through the fax machine. And I was talking to somebody the other day. The rules and everything for government rules and every regulations. There was literally nothing out there. They used to send us all their information, including their social security numbers,
Holy moly.
over the fax. Like there just wasn't rules back then. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't even do
Yeah.
not call. They would literally just send everything through a fax machine. So you would wait for faxes to come in. Well, anyways, make a long story short, it
Wow.
it ended up doing well. And of course, I had all these guys coming in that worked at the Sears store in Allstate, and they were like, "So show us about this internet lead thing." You know what I mean? And so to your point, the thing I benefited from is I didn't have to convert staff from a different type of marketing. I mean, this is what they learned at the beginning, and it's what I
Mm.
learned at the beginning. So I hired people and tried to hire people that were willing to put the work in and do outbound calls and outbound marketing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and so, the challenge is, and it always has been, is to find the right people and people that are motivated. I don't think there's anything wrong when if you have salespeople that are motivated by money. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it might not be the kumbaya answer, and I want to save the world and the planet and everything. Now, I want the guys that want to get a brand new Mercedes at the end of the year. That's the dude I want working for me. You know. Um, so basically built my business, you know what I mean, through internet leads, and very blessed through it. Was there at the right time at the beginning. Leads were super cheap. No one was really using them. I mean, I literally knew when I started there was me and like two other Allstate agents in the whole state of Texas that were even buying internet leads.
Wow.
That was it. Yeah.
That's incredible. And like even to
Yeah.
this day, right? So you adopted it early. So it's in your DNA. You learned very
Yeah.
early on, I'm sure just through experience, like, oh, this is the response time we need. This is how many times I
Yeah.
should call a lead. But there's still a lot of agencies that struggle with converting internet leads. And what do you think like the biggest mistakes are that most agents make, even to this day, that are just
Yeah.
getting into the internet lead game? What
Yes.
are you seeing out there?
Okay. First off, you have to be very strategic about where you're buying leads. Okay. So if you're with Allstate, Farmers, State Farm, whatnot, I guarantee you there's somebody in your management, okay, that can print off for you, okay, your top 50, 75 zip codes of where you're most competitive, where they're doing the most sales, okay? Because what I would
Hmm.
see all the time is somebody would be like, well, I'm in Houston. Okay. Well, where do you buy your leads? Well, I buy them in Houston. Okay. Well, how competitive are you in Houston? Like, the different counties, you got Harris County, you got um,
Hmm.
Conroe, that area. You know what I mean? How
Mhm.
competitive are you? Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm in Houston, so that's when I'm buying my leads. And at the early on, people thought one of the other people that would say internet leads wouldn't work is like, well, you're not in their city. People don't care. Okay, they don't care
People are
that
people.
I'm in Dallas and they're in San Antonio. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Totally.
they don't care anymore. And so people aren't strategic about where they're buying, because there were times where I was helping an agent one time doing consulting work, and he was in two different states, okay? And he was buying in this one state, and we looked at his uh, close rates for the state, by their carrier, right? By that company.
Mhm.
And it was like, 12, 13%, right? And that was like the top zip, and then it goes down, right? And then he could write in another state, and I said, well, are you writing in this state also? And he goes, no. He goes, it's the other state, blah blah blah. And I go, well, why don't you have them run the report? Let's just see. So they run the report, and it started off at like 27%, 25, and I'm like, wait, why aren't you I mean, this is double the close rate. And get this, there was no one buying leads in this state. So I could get him pricing like way cheaper. Do you know what I mean? And so
Yep.
at the very beginning, if you're not buying in the right area, you're not going to be successful. I don't care how good your people are, you know? Um, and then I think the next thing is you have to understand that it's a process. It takes time.
Mhm.
It's not going to just happen. Like, okay, if I buy $10,000 worth of leads, I'm going to write $100,000. No, you're not. Not at the beginning. You're not. It's going to take time. Like, I've done presentations, for a large group, and I'll have somebody come up to me afterwards and they say, John, man, I tried this internet lead thing, and man, it just didn't work. And I go, okay, well, first off, let me ask you, well, when did you start it? Well, I started in March. Okay. Well, how many leads did you buy? And he's like, 30.
Oh,
And I
geez.
said, okay, so 30 for the day or for the week? And he's like, no, no, 30. I said, for the whole month. And he said,
30.
yeah. I go, it's such a small sample size, you can't go off that. I go, buy 200 and then see what happens. Do you know what I mean? Because people don't understand, you might go through 40 leads and not sell one, and then you're going to sell 41, 42, and 43, and then
Yep.
you're going to go 10 and not sell any, and then you're going to sell 55, 56, and 57, and then you're not going to sell. You know what I mean? So like, it,
100%.
you have to do a good sample size. And then um the other thing is too, is you have to constantly be monitoring and massaging it. You know what I mean? You can't just have the lead program to just kind of set it off to the side and it's going to run itself. It's not. The next part is hiring the right people and having a system in play, that this is the system we do. You talked about timing. I think, getting a hold of the person, obviously making the right amount of calls, text messaging. Um, I'm amazed to this day that how many agencies I'll go in and they're not text messaging, you
Mhm.
know? And so I do a simple exercise with everyone, okay? I was in Miami one time, awesome, awesome agent. And I got a sales team together, about 15 people. And I said, okay, we're going to do an exercise real quick. Now, I'm not going to actually do this, but I want you to think about it. Okay. And they said, okay, okay. Wonder if I got like a tub, like a bus tub kind of thing. And I went around, I go, everyone put your cell phones in here. Okay. And they'd be like, okay, right. They'd all be freaking out. And I would take it back to the office of the agent. Then I would come back and I'd say, okay, now this is outside of work. Okay. For the next week, the only way you can communicate with anyone is by making a phone call. You can't text message, no Snapchat, no social media, no emails. The only way you can get a hold of anyone
Huh.
is by your cell phone calls. How many of you are feeling uncomfortable right now, even though I'm telling you this isn't going to happen? How many of you are already feeling uncomfortable? And, three-quarters of them, right? I said, well, let me ask you something else. I go, yesterday, how many, let's say it was an off day, right? Like a Sunday.
Mhm.
Um, how many, and this is personal, not business, and this is what I'd ask their staff, how many calls did you make, just outbound calls to friends? Like you just went, you know what, I need to talk to Larry. And you
Hmm.
called him, right? And I go, how many would say 5 or fewer? And I get, now I'll tell you, 3/4 to 80% of the room raise their hand, right? I said, how many of you yesterday sent out, I mean, really think about it. If we added up actual text messages, so if you're your friend and you're having a conversation back and forth, that's 20 texts, right? So how many of you probably texted out at least 100 texts yesterday? The whole room, right?
Huh.
I said, so let's think about this for a second. Your job and how you make income, one of the biggest success factors is talking to people and getting a hold of them, right? Yet you're telling me right now you made 5 outbound calls normal and you did 100 text messages. So how do you think you're going to get a hold of people the best way? What are people using? They're using text messaging. They're using social media. You know what I mean? They're not
Mm.
talking on the phone as much, you know?
Mhm.
And so you got to think about it that way. And here you are trying to get a hold of people, and all you're doing is phone calls. That's just an archaic way of looking at it.
Wow.
I told somebody, if Allstate came to me and said, you can only do one of two things. You're only allowed to either make phone calls or text message. I'd get rid of my phone calls. Honestly, I swear to you, I would I
Wow.
I would pick text messaging. You know, you'd be crazy not to.
That's incredible. And do you guys, as a unit, typically manually text people, or do you have this stuff on automation where leads are purchased and then they automatically get text while they're getting phone calls? How do you actually process them through your machine, your funnel?
Yeah, so we're actually converting to a new system, and there is some automation in it. You have to be really careful with TCPA laws.
Mhm.
It can't. There's all these different, rules in terms of that. But yes, we do. We have each producer has to like a setup kind of standard text they send out. Do you know what I mean? While they're doing the quote. And I'll tell you, one of my a little nugget here for everyone. Everyone has to what's the word I'm looking for? Not buy-in. What am I trying to say? When you send the initial text message, they have to
Opt in. Opt in.
yeah, opt in. Right. Thank you. And so my best producer, she said, well, one of the keys is, if you will, is just to start the initial conversation, right? Whether it's on the phone or whether it's text message, right? So when
Mhm.
she sends out text messages, all she sends out is a one question, and it says, are you still currently looking to get a homeowner's insurance quote? Something to that effect.
Hmm.
It's a yes or no question. Okay. So here's what happens. If they say no, okay, cool, take them off the list, whatever. If they say yes, great. Then immediately you ask another question. But you just killed two birds with one stone. You know why? They just opted in also.
Opted in and qualified.
Yep. And they didn't even know they opted in. Do you know what I mean? But they answered the
Yep.
question. Yes, they opted in, and we're able to
Mm.
start a conversation.
That totally makes sense, and it's appropriate because they are interested and they are in the
Yeah.
market. So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
it's all within good business. And I think the game of texting is a learned skill for sure. Just
Hmm.
texting to text, but we always call it a ping pong match that's going on in communication. And if they hit a ball, you hit the ball back to them. And I
Yep.
feel like a lot of people get caught up on text because they'll try to do too much at once. They'll send paragraphs. And I don't know
Yes.
about you, but when I get a
Yes.
paragraph, my brain breaks and I'm like, I can't
No,
respond to this right now.
it's called delete. You just delete it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Like we're
It
not doing this
has
right
to
now.
be. No, that's a great point. It has to be small little nuggets. Um, I'll give you another nugget that I teach. That I got from another staff member that she's an agent now, and emails. Okay. And for a while, I was almost completely off the email train. I was like, you know what? No one opens them. You know what I mean? They just erase them. They don't even open they open the email. Well, we do a lot of, we buy for the most part, primarily homeowners leads.
Mhm.
And so on the email, she said, we were in a manager meeting and she said, John, I create a lot of, relationships and startups through email. I'm like, how? Are you kidding me? Everyone else is like, how? Like, what are you doing? Well, in the subject line of the email, what she put was the address of the house in red, and that's it.
Huh.
Didn't say it was from Allstate, didn't say a quote, just the address of their home in red. And she's like, you wouldn't believe how many people opened it and then saw, oh, do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Quote for
Yeah.
Allstate, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, a simple email too. You know, what you said is so critical too in this game is people's attention spans are so, like what you said, they're so small, and if you send, like you said, a huge text message, they're just going to erase it. It's the same thing leaving a message. I used to, when I was selling, I had the same speech that I said every single time. Do you know what I mean? When someone didn't answer the phone. I mean,
Mhm.
I can do it for you really quick. Okay. Hi, this is John Pavle. I saw that you're on the internet looking for a quote for homeowners insurance. I just need about 1 minute of your time to get you a complimentary quote. If you can give me a call back at 214, blah, 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 right? Went to a great con, went to Leads Con once, and this guy spoke awesome about internet leads. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it completely wrong.
Mm.
Like, I sound like a robot. And halfway through, they hang up,
Me-
and the guy that was teaching it, and he's so right. He's like, the more casual, the more personal you are. Do you know what I mean? The more likely are they're going to continue to listen, and you have to make it short. So now I teach. It's like, hey, this is John. Hey, I'm working on your homeowner's quote. It looks great. Just give me a call back whenever you get a chance. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Oh
And I
yeah.
don't
I
leave
can
my
feel that.
number because me as a grandpa, like those, what is it, progressive commercials that teach you not to be your dad.
Yeah.
I had a moment like that because the guy goes, okay, I don't remember when let's say it was 2000, I don't know, 18 or something. He goes, it's 2018 and you're leaving your number. Um, Everybody has your number if you call. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to leave your number, grandpa. And I
Mm.
was like, oh my gosh, man, I was doing this so wrong, you know? Um, and, I think that's another thing too is, working internet leads, it's a constant, you're learning how to be better and you're learning new things. And, the minute that you think you've got it figured out, man, you're in trouble, you know?
Mhm.
You've got to be pliable. You got to be willing to change things, try new things, and really give them a chance.
100%. I love everything that you've said so far. First of all, talking about if I had to pick phone calls or text, I'd pick text. I think should be a huge wake up call to anybody who's not thinking of text as a major medium
Oh
for
yeah.
communication. And then just looking into like you've got to work it as a process. Now, when you come in like today, if you had to go look at the control panel for what are the most important 2 or 3 KPIs or metrics that if I said, hey, John, what's the health of your insurance leads and marketing and how they're converting today, right
Yeah.
now on May 1st? What are you looking at to make that health check, I guess, on the overall health of it?
Yeah, I would say I have somebody that kind of manages it for me.
Okay.
And because I'll just be honest, I just don't want to do it anymore. I mean, I know that
Mhm.
sounds bad. It makes me sound lazy, but hey, I'm 55 going on 56. So,
Delegation.
anyways, uh, but, I kind of look at bare bones, make it as simplistic as possible. Number one, um, are we quoting enough? How many quotes do we have? What are we averaging per producer? Or I'm looking at actually producers, the ones that maybe are struggling. And then looking at, what they're closing, And
Mhm.
so, because to me, when I hire someone, I tell them it's kind of like I kind of have like a 3-phase thing, right? The first one is like the accumulation and the work you have to put in. And so that's making phone calls, text messaging, emailing, right? And doing the work and doing quotes. Okay. And I tell them, if you don't accomplish this first phase, there's no reason for me to teach you phase 2 and 3.
Mm.
Because if you're not quoting enough, then you're not going to be successful. Like, it's just it's a numbers game. We always say that. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game, but it's true. I told them, I go, my best person who writes over 100 items a month, if she was quoting as good as she is, been with me a long, long, long time. Okay, um, if she was quoting 5 people a day, 5 households a day,
Mhm.
she's there's no way she's going to make her number. There's no way, you know? And so that's why I tell them the first part is you have to put the work in, you know, and then you have to look at all 3 phases. And so,
Mm.
um, I just think you've got to, that's the biggest thing you've got to look at is first off with your people is are they putting the work in? Because sometimes people will say, well, these leads aren't good or the quality's not good, but they're not being worked the right way.
Mhm.
You know, they're not being followed up on. There's no really good sales process with it, you know? And I think the internet lead customer has changed a lot over the years. And I think now, what I tell people is I want us to be the Amazon of insurance.
Mm.
People want to feel like they got a good deal and they want to be led through the process. Okay. 99% of the people
Mm.
that we talk to on the phone, like before I got in this business, know nothing about insurance. Okay. You know, really quick, I'll tell you a quick story about how I feel like people need to be led through the process. Okay.
Yeah.
And remember, too, people don't have time. They don't have time to do anything anymore. Okay. No one has free time. Um, I am, you can ask my staff, I'm technology challenged. Okay. I'm pretty proud of myself that I got on here by myself without any help. So
You did great.
I sound like a grandpa. Okay. So my wife's office needed
Wait,
a
real quick,
router.
can I stop you, John?
Yeah.
I just want to make one point, right? You're like technically like I'm challenged, right? Which I
Oh,
respect
yeah.
the fact that you're saying that. I would argue
Yeah.
that you're actually very technically adept, but here's somebody, everybody running almost a $50 million organization within the insurance space who's saying I'm technically that's not my strong suit, but
No.
is crushing it with internet leads. And I talk to a lot of agents that are like, well, I'm not good at computers and tech and all this. So like, what are internet leads? And I think it's beautiful to kind of see that. So anyway, I just wanted to
No,
like
no,
pause for a
no.
second
Yeah.
because I think that's a,
I'm not,
you don't use
I
it as an
learned.
excuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is great.
You can't. You can't. And so, anyways, I go into a Best Buy. I know my wife's office at the
Mhm.
time when she had one needed a new router. I kind of sort of know what a router is, but like I have no clue what kind to buy, anything. So I go into the Best Buy. One of the guys walks up and says, "Sir, can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a router." Before I can say anything else, he goes, "Oh, they're right here in the front in aisle 11." I said, "Cool." Walk over to aisle 11 and I look, and there's probably 100 different routers for sale. One for $20, one for $2,000, right? I literally have no idea which one to buy. Okay. Try calling a buddy of mine that knows a lot about this stuff. Can't get a hold of them. It's lunchtime. And I'm like, screw it. I'm coming back tomorrow. I don't have time. Remember what we just talked about? I don't have time.
Don't have time.
I don't know what I'm buying. Okay. So I'm just going to come back tomorrow. So I kid you not, I go back to the exact same Best Buy the next day. Okay. Same one. And a different guy walks up to me and he says, "Sir, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a router." He goes, "Okay, follow me."
Hmm.
Okay. As we're walking, he asked me, "Is it for business or home?" Business. Okay. How many computers? What kind of work do you do? Blah, blah, blah. He's qualifying me.
Hmm.
Okay. As we're walking to the aisle. Okay. When we get to the aisle, he reaches over and he goes, "Hey, John, this is more than what you need, but you can see it's not the most expensive. I'm not trying to sell you the most expensive one. It's not the cheapest one, but this will last you a while. It's a really good router."
Hmm.
What do you think I did?
Bought that
I
router.
grabbed it and I went to the checkout and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is exactly what I wanted." This is what our customers want. Okay.
Mhm.
They want, you got to educate them. Okay. Because they have no idea what they're buying. Okay. And rest assured, they're making a good decision. And then you make the process easy for them. Okay. You're a one stop shop. And that's in that story
Wow.
alone, that's what our customers want. Okay. They always say, "Well, I want the cheapest. I want the cheapest." It's not always that. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Mhm.
Okay. They want what's a good value and having what I need, because I tell people all the time, I go, "Look, when a customer has a fire at their house or they're in a car accident and they call in every single time, what's the first thing they say?
Hmm.
Am I covered?" That's what they're worried about. Okay. They don't ask, how much is my premium? How much is my deductible? No, they're tensed up, right? You can tell they're on the phone. "Oh, am I covered for this? Yes, you are. Okay.
Right.
And our job is when they call in, that's not the first thing they say because they know they're covered. Okay. They know they have the right coverage. And that's what I heard somebody say one time, we're selling peace of mind, you know, selling peace of mind. Because the challenges with what we do, there's nothing tangible they get. When you buy a car, you get a car. When you buy a house, you get a house. When you buy shoes, you can put them on. Insurance is just floating out there, right? And so it's up here. It's peace of mind, knowing that you're covered and that you're covering your family and your loved ones.
Geez, that's huge. And that foundational concept, right? Of like, we're here to guide them. We're here to
Yeah,
give them peace of mind. It
yeah,
almost is like, if you have the right mindset, a lot of the like, oh, I want the perfect word track. It's like, no, like if your heart's in the right place and you approach this thing, you're just going to naturally be able to guide somebody. And you're so right. Like when somebody comes in and they're looking to solve their problem, like they're going to believe what you believe. And if you believe, hey, this is the best solution and here's why, and I'm going to guide you to the water,
mm,
like usually people won't question that. It's when you come in with a sales mindset or a transactional mindset that they get
right.
turned off. So I love that story about Best Buy. That's going to stick with me for a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, and then
True story too. I didn't make it up. I promise.
I believe you.
It was like I got in the car and I went, wait, that's what we do. That's what we need to be doing. Do you know what I mean? What
Mm,
I just went through. Because I went in not knowing, I just knew I needed to buy a router. How many times do we have customers that go, I need full coverage? I just bought a car. I need full coverage. They have no idea what that means, right? Just bought a home and they'll say, I need full coverage on my house. Do you know what I mean?
mhm.
They don't know. Like first time home buyers, my daughter's buying her first house. She has no idea. Do you know what I mean? What's going on? Zero.
100%. Man, it's so interesting and so refreshing to hear this. One of the things I want to talk about while we had some time here was also kind of looking at your scale, because not everybody has, multiple locations. And I'm curious if you could walk us through kind of your decision to expand the operation from one to multiple locations, and like
Yeah.
what made you ready or made you want to dive in and go that route and start scaling that way.
Right. So back when I decided to open a second office, I had a scratch agency. And like I said, the comp structure, you made a ton at the beginning and then every month it went down, right?
Mhm.
And then I think it was by month 36, you were down to basic comp. And back then, you got paid 10 and 10. Okay. 10 on new business, 10 on renewals. Okay. Well, to do the system that I wanted to do, um, there was no way that I could do it making 10% new business.
Mm.
Okay. Because think about it. Like if I spend 10,000 to write, I don't know, 60,000 in premium, I'm only making 6,000 on new business and I got to pay my staff. And you know what I mean? Like it's
Yep.
not, it's okay for me. I'm okay if I break even when I'm in my growth stage. If I break even on new business, that's okay because I'm really making my money on renewals, right? But when you're
Yep.
starting out, you got to make money on new business, right? So my thought process was
Mm.
a couple of things. And I know for numbers wise, it doesn't make sense, but in my mind, I would rather have because I would have managers come up to me and go, "Why are you opening all these locations? Why don't you just have one location and staff more?" Well,
Mm.
two reasons. Number one, I just felt like having two annuities instead of one annuity was better, and
Mhm.
having three annuities. Okay. The second thing was
Mm.
when I opened the second location, from a financial standpoint, I didn't need it. Okay. But what I needed it for is it became my marketing fund. Okay. Because now my profit margin's higher here, okay? Because a
Mm.
lot of the stuff I have in my base office, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I use that office as my marketing dollars. So I was making um,
Hmm.
much higher contribution to profit, right, per item on this new office because I'm on the new comp plan, right? And so I use that money to not only fund the marketing for that agency, but also the other one. Okay.
Hmm.
And then when that one started to get like a year in, I opened another one. So every time, you know what I mean? When one went down to basic 10 and 10, I still had another one making 30, 35% new business. Okay. And that was kind of my marketing machine, if you will. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I used all that profit to pay for my marketing and my other businesses because at the time, 10%, you couldn't do internet lead. I mean, it was really hard. Do you know what I mean? To do it on 10 and 10.
Yeah.
It just financially. So that's why I kept opening locations. And as a matter of fact, kind of a funny story. The last one I applied for, they said, "Man, John, I don't know." And I said, "Well, here's the story. I'm just going to be honest with you. Um, Obviously, I have, at the time I think I had 4 locations. I don't desperately need to like pay my bills to have a fifth location. But I'm going to use this location to pay for the marketing for all my offices. So
Hmm.
if you guys don't want to approve it, that's cool. But understand my marketing budget's going to go down about 70%. And guess what else is going to go down 70%? My sales.
Hmm.
Well, they don't want that. And lo and behold, you know what I mean? I showed them my business plan and I showed them this is how I'm going to use the money. Do you know what I mean? They
Yes.
went, they would have been dumb to tell me no. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm contributing, a good amount of items and premium to the region. So, but that's the reason why. And I just felt like the other thing I did that I've seen in the past, a lot of people have made mistakes with multiple agencies is they'll have 3 agencies, but they run it as one. Okay. I think that's a big mistake. I think you have to treat each one of them as an individual office.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it. And even though financially it didn't make as much sense, okay, I had a separate account for my lead manager, a separate one for each office. Okay. And then I had separate account, like let's say EverQuote. Okay. I had an EverQuote account for this office, an EverQuote account for this office, so I kept everything separate. And the other thing it helped with is for me to tell how profitable each one was too. Because when you put them all together, you know what I mean? It makes it a lot more difficult to figure out
Yeah.
which one's profitable, which one's not.
I've
But I
seen that
ran
mistake
them
now that you mention
separate
it.
because what I've seen in the past is somebody will open an office and this kind of ruined it for a lot of us. They would be on 10 and 10, right? And let's say they're writing 100 items a month. They're doing great, right? And so then all of a sudden they open up a satellite office and they start and they're getting higher commission, right? So what's the natural thought? Okay, I'm going to write 90 items a month here and 10 items a month on my old one.
Mm.
Well, the region sees that as like, okay, you're just manipulating the system. What's in it for us? You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like you're still writing the same amount of business, you're just moving it over. And to me, that always made no sense because again, I want 3 big annuities or 4 big annuities or 5 big annuities. I want all my agencies growing, you know? I don't want them shrinking. Like to me, it made no sense. It was like it was a temporary benefit, if you will, right? You started growing this book, but this other book is going down. So now after 3 years, let's say you were a $3 million agency, and then after 3 years, this one's 1 million and this one's 2.5. You're back at square one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so
100%.
and a lot of people saw that and like, wow, okay, here's how I can in the short term. You remember we were talking about earlier about how I would build up my marketing fund, and you said too, and I know guys who are like, oh, I made extra $3,000. I'm gonna go buy a car, or you know what I mean, or whatever.
Hmm.
And guys saw that money, it was a short term kind of fix influx. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, and I would tell people, like, man, if you're doing it that way, you better not change your lifestyle. I know now you're making double the income, but we've all seen it as insurance agents, right? The new guy that's on that new agent comp and they're making 35-40% and they're like, man, I made $250,000 last year. And it's like, yeah, why don't you run the numbers? you know if you don't increase, you know what I mean, you're probably not your year 3 or year 4, you're gonna be making 150. So you better be careful with your lifestyle, you know what I mean.
Yeah. And
um
like, I also think, thinking back to your journey, once you have another location and you use it to fuel the marketing for this one, and then
Yeah.
it's the next and the next,
Yeah.
your mindset is now locked into a much larger long-term strategy. So your attention, your focus, your investments
Yeah.
are growing this thing. And it's like people are signing their own retirement note when they don't have that. And I'm not saying everybody has to have 6 locations. It's not,
Yeah. No.
for
No.
everybody, but
No.
I do think like that long-term forward vision is something that's definitely lacking in the industry. And I
Yeah.
really hope this reaches as many people as possible, because if I were an agent right now in that position, this could be a great wake-up call, just hearing John's perspective. And like, you think life is going to be so much better when you're just skimming all the extra money out and you're not investing. But when you say like it's an annuity, right? And you talk about where
Yeah.
you're at today,
Yeah.
I'm sure that now if you want to go get a new car, you have no issue doing that, but it's on
Yeah.
renewable business that's going to come in
Right.
either way. So
Well,
I love your vision.
people would ask me, my friends that aren't in the business, right? So what are you investing in? And I can tell you up until, we all go through different phases of our lives in terms of like savings and all that. Like, I can tell you the first, shoot, 8 years, um, I had in my savings, and it probably isn't a good thing to say. Now, again, let me go back to you. I had a little base in my LLC, right? In case something were to happen,
Yeah.
$10,000, $15,000. Okay. But besides that, do you know how much I had in a savings account? You know how much money I put away in savings for that
Huh.
first 8 years? Zero.
Wow.
Because here's the thing. Remember what I told you. Oh, I can put it in an annuity, or I'm sorry, not an annuity, but like a mutual fund or something. It might go up, it might go down, whatnot. But I'm looking at it going, wait a second. I put an extra 5,000 a month in to spend on marketing leads, right? On internet leads, and I write $20,000 more, in a year, my renewals go up 2,000 a month, or you know what I mean? Or in 6 months, my renewals go up because of the autos, right? So I'm
Yep.
getting an immediate return and I'm making money on it, on that $2,000 investment, right? So it's
Hmm.
it's a double thing. And so people would ask me, well, what are you? And I go, my agency is my retirement. That's my retirement account. Do you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
I think I heard this a long time ago, and for young people, it's probably not something when I was young and in this business. You always should have an exit strategy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I think you should set goals on how big you want to get your book by this time, and it's about growth. Um, the report we used to have was called the CSRP. I think it's the Business Metrics Report now.
Hmm.
And I was telling a new agent one time, I said, when it's all said and done, we really get wrapped up in looking at all these numbers and breaking down all these numbers, okay? But the most important number, when over anything else, okay, I'm talking retention, item growth, blah, blah, blah. The most important thing is you look at last month and what was your earned premium? It was 2.5 million, okay? This month, what was it? Well, it was 2.5 million and 25,000. Great. Your book grew, because the minute that book starts going down, everything you're doing at the end of the day ain't working. Okay. You might think, well, I'm making more money, but guess what? Your book's getting smaller. The
Hmm.
most important thing is to grow that annuity, right? You want a big, big annuity. Okay. And at the end of the day, that's the most important number, man. That's the number I look at every time. That's the first number I look at. Is my book of business growing? You know, that's the most important thing. And knock on wood, it has been. And I think in these times right now, we have to take advantage of a lot of the carriers are going through a lot of pressure, to raise rates and everything. And trust
Hmm.
me, I don't like it as much as anyone. But Andy, for someone that's been around, a lot of people haven't been around when a carrier takes a big rate decrease. And let me tell you what, if you got anything above like a $6-7 million book, and I've been around where we took like a 12% decrease in homeowners insurance, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, man, we're gonna write so much business, right? We're gonna write so much business. And it's like, yeah, we wrote some more. Okay, cool. I wrote more new business. And then you get your comp statement, right? And your renewals are down 12%. on homeowners, right?
Hmm.
And your check overall is less. And you're like, wait a second. And then you realize, wait, I got to write 12% more. Do you know what I mean? Premium wise, just to break even. On the flip side, again, I don't like having rate increases, but you know what? Rate increases make us more money, guys. I hate to tell you that.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? You're not
Hmm.
going to be able to outright it, and it's not a bad thing, and it's necessary. It's necessary for the insurance company because of inflation. It's necessary for us. When I first started buying internet leads, I was paying like $4 a lead for like a premium filtered. I was the only one in the state of Texas, all state agent to get it. You know what I mean? four
Yes.
dollars. You know, and that was for like the top of the line internet lead. Now they're 20, 30, or if you do live transfers, they're over 100. Do you know what I mean? So our renewals have to mirror that as well. So I know people get really up about rate increases, but here's the thing: at the end of the day, you have to remember they might happen after you, but your competitors are going to raise their rates too.
Hmm.
Don't kid yourself. Do you know what I mean? If you're an Allstate agent, I promise you, that everyone else is going to raise their rates. It might not happen right then, but they will. If you're a State Farm agent and you raise your rates, I promise you, other people are going to raise their rates.
Like it's
If
coming.
you're a farmers, everybody, okay, it's not just you. I promise. Through the years, I've seen it time and time again. Everybody raises their rates at the same time. Everybody. I worked outside. I helped start up Countrywide Insurance, their insurance division from their mortgage side. And I can tell you, talking to controllers and stuff was the first time I really
Mhm.
got to know some controllers. They literally talk to each other. Do you know what I mean? From other
Hmm.
companies. What are you guys seeing? You know what I mean? And
Wow.
they watch, they absolutely watch what other companies do and react because of it. If you're a smaller insurance company, I'm telling you right now, the smaller carriers out there, I promise you, when they see Allstate, State Farm, Farmers, whatever, raise rates, they immediately go, okay, obviously we need to be raising rates. What's going on? What do they see
Wow.
that? Because a lot of these companies don't have the metrics, they don't have the intel that these bigger companies have. And they literally go off the intel of some of the bigger companies. It's a copycat.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Man, so interesting. This has been so enlightening, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface. And what I'd love to do as we sort of come to a close on this show, although I'd love to be with you for the next 5 hours and keep picking your brain, is how can people engage with you for coaching if you have openings for that? Because I feel like
Yeah.
the mindset, the scale in which you operate, and
Yeah.
that mindset and strategy, the internet leads. I mean,
Yeah.
like you just addressed so many pain points in one call.
Yeah.
If people can work with you, what does that look like, and how can they reach
Um,
you?
yeah, they can go on the CWC website, and I can be a coach for them. And what that looks like is it's anywhere from 2 to 3 calls a month. And, we talk about everything. I kind of talk about, when I first started out, Charlie Money, like,
Hmm.
honestly, I don't know where I would have been without him. You know what I mean? Because he helped me as a mentor, helped me in so many ways. I mean, I have mentors now myself. Do you know what I mean? That I call and go, hey, what are you seeing out there? And I think what's so important about having a mentor too is having somebody with a positive outlook and positive people around you. Because I tell people all the time, the most dangerous thing in your office is negativity. I've seen it
Mm-hmm.
destroy agencies left and right. I tell new agents, I go, look, there are agents out there that could say, the company could come out and say, no matter what company you work for, Farmers could come out and say, we're going to double your income next month. You were making 20% of your business, we're doing 40%. Oh, and by the way, on renewals, you were making 9%, now you're going to make 18. There's still going to be a group of agents going, well, why are we only getting 18 on renewals? I heard somebody else is getting 20. You know what I mean? They're still not going to be happy. It does not matter what happens. They're not going to be happy. This business sucks. I don't know why I'm in it. You guys are crazy for being in it. Do you know what I mean? And when you start to talk to people like that, man, it's a poison. It's an
Mhm.
absolute poison for you, and it's a poison for your culture. And really quick, I've told somebody, I've let people go in my organization that were great salespeople, my best CSR at the time, for the mere fact that they were such a negative. They were so negative in the office, and I can't have it. I can't have negativity. It'll destroy an office. It's a cancer in your organization, and you have to get rid of it immediately.
Mm. Wow, John, this has been incredible. Seriously, we've done this. I think this is potentially our 1 year anniversary this week or
Oh,
next week.
awesome!
So this is about
Congrats.
a year. Thank you so much. And it's been one of the most powerful episodes I've ever been able to sit in on, and just very grateful for your time. And I did put
Mhm.
your CWC link into the live stream. We'll put it on the restream as well.
Yeah,
And whether you guys are joining us live or you're watching the rerun, definitely link up with John, reach out to him, and obviously align with somebody like Craig and that organization.
yeah, great
It's
organization.
phenomenal organization. So, I mean, there's
Yeah,
just so much to be learned in this space. And obviously John has gone out time and time again and proven it with multiple locations, and just a really refreshing conversation here today. So John, I just want to thank you, and I want to thank our live audience that was with us, and let you guys know we'll be back next week for another exciting episode of Ask the Experts. But John, thank you so much, man. This has been awesome.
thank you guys.